You served in army, you were in RR, right? Uh, got retired with a lieutenant colonel rank. 10-12 साल में what was Umang Kohli like? The transition that happened, right? Because हम लोग जब छोटे होते हैं ना, मे बी 10-15 years की एज में, दिस constant feed that goes on with respect to the goals that we want to achieve by our parents, society, everything. What was your state at that time? What were you thinking about to do in life?
The thing is that my grooming and my growing up was very interesting in the sense that from my maternal side, they come from a very nationalist, patriotic kind of a background. And geopolitics, news, countries' defense, and the normal state of welfare in the
Hmm.
country is discussed a lot in my maternal side. And my mother is very, very passionate about how our country is doing and what we are doing. My father has been an academician, and he's been more into academics and concentrated about scientific acumen. And he has been in the field of agriculture and
Hmm.
genuinely concerned about the welfare of farmers as well as the scientific community. So the grooming was mixed. In fact, there has been a very interesting incident that has taken place in my life that actually shaped at the age of around 10 or 12. There was this terrorism that was going on in Punjab,
Okay.
and the Khalistani terrorists every now and then would kill innocent civilians. So much so, they started killing news readers of Doordarshan. At that time, only Doordarshan was there. So and they started killing news readers of
Hmm.
Doordarshan. Doordarshan Jalandhar news reader, I remember, was killed once. So it was a habit at our home that around 8 o'clock, when the news used to come every day, my dad would ask me as a 10, 12-year-old kid to come and sit and watch news every day so that I came to know what was happening around the world. And innocently, though, I just asked my father that if they would keep on killing the news readers, who
Hmm.
would read the news thereafter? So we would have nobody to tell us what is happening around the world. So then my dad thought about it, and he said that when everything fails, the last bastion is the army. If they would keep killing, then army personnel would come on the national TV and
Hmm.
start reading the news. And that would be the time when things would have gone towards that kind of an emergency, when the
And
last
sorry,
bastion.
sorry to interrupt, but and he spoke about this thing way back in 1980s कि ऐसा कुछ होने होगा आगे जाके.
नहीं, ही सेड कि अगर ऐसा होता रहा कि न्यूज
Hmm.
रीडर्स को मारते रहेंगे तो फिर there would be only one option left, and that is the armed forces personnel would have to
Hmm.
come on the television and read the news. Now this struck a chord with me,
Hmm.
that if nothing in this country, or the things go to such a level that people, then the army is the last bastion.
Hmm.
The army is the supreme executive. The army is an organization, or the armed forces is an organization. When nothing will work, chaos will reign. It is only the armed forces that will hold the nation together. And that's what is always happened
Hmm.
wherever, when the things go totally south. It's
Yeah.
the armed forces that bring them back to
Correct.
normal. So this is the starting point of the passion which you said, that how about why you thought about joining the army, and the passion for media as well.
Hmm.
So this was the starting point actually, if you see.
Okay. Uh, and then when did you got commissioned? In which year?
I got commissioned in uh, I got into the academy in 99
Okay.
when Kargil was still happening, and I was motivated by Kargil. I would see every day. My father wanted me to continue into academics and maybe do MSc in horticulture.
Okay.
I was doing BSc in horticulture. However, I was totally inclined toward going to the forces because I wanted to do something um, very, very different, which impacted the nation directly,
Hmm.
which had a direct consequence on the security and building up of the nation directly, actually. So, and Kargil was going on. I was associated in the university also with lots of NGO activities and nation building activities and environment conservation activities. So such kind of activities, propelled me further to do something more, something more. And while Kargil was still on, I went for my SSB, and I cleared it. Initially, the family was hesitant because I was the only son and nobody was there in the army before me.
Hmm.
So they were a little hesitant, apprehensive. Um, However, in due course of time, I insisted upon, and I joined, and the sarcasm went away, and the uh, also the apprehensiveness and went away. Yeah.
Right. Uh, you had this dream to go in army and then do something for the nation. Apart from that, you also wanted to go inside the armed forces and the media strata, right? Uh, if you were being, if you were not being readily available, कि ठीक है आपके पेरेंट्स बोल रहे हैं दैट यू डोंट गो देयर, आपको फाइट करनी पड़ी, लाइक यू हैड टू फाइट टू गो फॉर आर्मी, या फिर इट वाज अ स्मूथ केक वॉक? बिकॉज द इमोशंस टेक्स ओवर, एज यू सेड दैट यू वर द ओनली चाइल्ड, थोड़ा रिबेलियस होना पड़ा
No,
या?
immediately after Kargil, when Kargil was even going on, everybody, all the parents were a little
Hmm.
skeptical, were a little apprehensive, were a little concerned
Hmm.
that there could be loss of life, limb, and such kind of things would come about. And since Kargil was already going on, obviously the parents had their own that they have their own limitations still, and they also want that their only son should stay with
Hmm.
them
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
not go away totally. That was there. However, like I said, like my mother is from a background which is totally nationalist and patriotic in nature, and there was a phenomenal amount of support also from certain sections of the family that well, I should go and join. And but my father was a little apprehensive, but gradually he just agreed to what I wanted to do.
So what do you recommend to a 19-year-old right now? He wants to chase his dreams, right? But the societal pressure, the parental pressure is there. uh, as Indians and within our culture, we are given this concept कि माता पिता ही भगवान होते हैं, they would think good about you and all that. On the contrary, we have our self journey that we want to explore. कई लोगों को they have to become a rebel in order to do that. Some people just skip it and then regret later. What would you suggest to a 19-20-year-old now?
I have two, three things to say. One, let's look at the history of our country. And that history of our country says that whenever the security and whenever the overall, we have to conserve whatever we have got in our heritage. We were an evolved civilization over a period of time, the kind of uh, uh, books, literature, uh, physical and mental evolving, the जिसको कहते हैं स्पिरिचुअलिटी के अंदर जो है वो आत्मज्ञान,
Hmm.
यहाँ जो है वो हमारी स्पिरिट इवॉल्व हो गई एज इंडियंस एंड द सिविलाइजेशन that we did not protect. We let the invaders come from outside, and gradually they took away the nation, and we were in a way subjugated to them, or पराधीन हो गए उनके. The importance of education and evolving spiritually, along with the ability to protect it, along with the ability to lift the sword when the pen is threatened, is also very important. And that thing has not gone away. To protect the country from economic and cultural aggression, the sword or the gun may have to be lifted time and again. What happened in Pahalgam? It's not that some individuals or some people have been killed. It's a slap on your traditions, on your faith system, on your culture, on
Yeah.
your very ethos, on the morale of the country, on your will to live, survive with dignity and with respect. That dignity, respect, and the will to be there in the other nations, in the arena of the top nations. If that has to be done, people have to go in the armed forces. The young 19-year-old who are passionate about their country, who want to defend their country, they must defend their country with all the might that they have. One thing was great. My house was just next to a school, and when I was a kid, this school was called the Punj Villa School.
Hmm.
It was made into an old villa which was vacated after partition, and they converted it into a school. This was a school for poor children. The education was free, but every day in the morning they would come there, and uh, immediately after the assembly, after the national anthem was done, they used to raise a slogan, "Desh ki raksha kaun karega," and all the kids would echo back,
Hmm.
"Hum karenge, hum karenge." I studied in a convent, but I was impressed with those guys when they said that, "Desh ki raksha kaun karega, hum karenge, hum karenge." That
Right.
spirit must never go. That spirit must never go. And I'm very happy that an analysis was done, and 78% of the youth that were interviewed or asked, if required, would they fight for their country, no matter what
Profession
the
they're in. Yeah.
weapon or what the system may be. They
Hmm.
may
Hmm.
do it as information warriors, or they may do it in logistics, or in railways, or in different arms and services that they might be in, not necessarily with the gun itself, or maybe with the aeroplane itself. So that kind of a feeling in the youth of the country is very important to the will to fight an external aggression. And I'm extremely proud. Uh, in the last 70, 75 years, people may say whatever they want to say, but in the 75 years, whatever establishments we have had, uh, have created generations which are willing to fight for the country and are extremely proud of the Indian flag. They're extremely proud of our customs, traditions, the liberty that we provide, we have amongst the people, woman empowerment, even the women folks. They're ready to fight for whatever our country provides them.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So that's what I would say to the
Hmm.
19-year-old. Go for it. If you just really want to, son, pick up the gun, or maybe serve the country,
Hmm.
or go the armed forces, why not? There is no better noble profession than that. You're fighting for a cause, and you're fighting for the country, which is one of the best in the world.
Yeah. Uh, Sir, is violence is the only solution of violence?
No, no.
Because in Hindi what we say is कि पहली भाषा प्यार की होती है, and then we take on some other solutions, other kind of stuff कि कैसे कैसे किसी चीज को हम
No,
लेके.
I don't agree. The violence is a wrong word. There is, like I said, in democracies, the militaries play a very important role. And to safeguard your own culture and traditions, you have to safeguard it at times
Hmm.
with people who don't understand any other language. You have to, with a strong will and maybe the power of the gun, you have to safeguard your own culture and traditions. So to say the violence has to be reciprocated with violence, no, not really. But then when you have been attacked, and then when your house has been set on fire, what wouldn't you do? You have one option: to just doze the fire off and stop that person who's trying to put the fire in the first place, and probably trying to spread it. So this is something which you are doing in defense, which this is something which you are doing to protect yourself. This is something you are doing for a larger cause of peace.
Hmm.
And for a long-term peace, you need to be strong. There is no doubt about it. In the current world and scenario, for the long-term peace, you have to be strong. If not exercise that strength, at least project that strength in a way that nobody can dare to attack us. You see, even you go back in our history and in culture, you go to Ramayana days, you go to Lord Ram's days, Diwali is round the corner, so I'm talking about it. When he was wronged, he had to pick up a
Hmm.
gun. He's a peace-loving man. If somebody try to hit his house, his family, his thought process, his very being, then then our culture says this only: if somebody does that, there is no option but to pick up the bow and the arrow.
So let's go back to RR. I'm not demeaning any other regiment or any other strata or segments of the armed forces, the arms and services. But what makes RR different? They are always deployed in Valley. But what is one differentiating quotient when we talk about comparing a soldier from RR versus any other regiment? Maybe Dogra Scouts, maybe you know infantry, and anything.
So RR is made out of these soldiers only picked up from different units. They may
Hmm.
be from Dogras, Madras, Armored, or any other regiment of the Indian Army. However, the work culture of RR is slightly different. The weapons are different, and also the operating process is quite different. And they're very effective, and they're time tested over the years. And how it actually happens is very interesting, very different. Even the paras are uh, my paras friends may please forgive me, but even the paras are not as effective as the Rashtriya Rifles, and there's a reason for it. The paras operate when they have been provided with a surgical intelligence, when
Hmm.
they have been provided that this is where they are, this is where they are hiding. They land up there with brute force. They eliminate them. RR doesn't operate that way. RR has a system of human intelligence which is built credibly over a period of time. They live the terrorism and the counterinsurgency in that particular area. They understands the value and the culture of the local people. They go and interact with them. They sit in their house and eat with them. They even pray with them. They play cricket with them. They roam around with them, and they are friends with them.
Hmm.
And each person, we generally say, when he is in RR, he goes and makes two sources at least, or two friends who confide in him. So if there are around 1,000 men in an RR battalion, so there are around 2,000 more friends that they have. So it is around 3,000 people roaming around with human intelligence all over the
Hmm.
place. So this kind of a setup in which the human intelligence comes on its own to the RR is unique to the RR. Any amount of commando force picked up from anywhere, from northeast or any other place, or let us say we've trained the commandos and you put them there. If they don't know what has been happening and what is the grain and what is the flow of the insurgency or terrorism in that area, they wouldn't understand. I'll give you an example. There are people who are living in between two spurs, let us say in a remote area,
Hmm.
in the in in somewhere, let us say in Doda or Rajouri or such like places where there is considerable Hindu population as well. There is a culture and tradition there that they marry between these spurs only.
Hmm.
Each one is related to them. कोई terrorist की कई वहाँ पे जो है वो, even if they are coming and getting trained in Pakistan and come back and now operating here as terrorists, many of them do that. Most of them, in fact, do that. Even the local terrorists go and get trained in Pakistan and come back. So now कौन उसकी मामी है, कौन फूफी है, कौन चाची है, कौन किसके साथ उसका जो है वो बचपन में किसके साथ स्कूल में पढ़ता था, कहाँ
Hmm.
सोता था, रोता था, किसके साथ जाके जो है वो बात करता था, वो वही मिलेगा, उसी ऑपरेटर्स के साथ जो है वो मिलेगा। वो तो आर को ही पता है, वो और
Hmm.
किसको पता है? वो बाहर से आप कमांडो फोर्स लाके कर दोगे, वो साथ वाले ही घर के अंदर जो है वो बैठा हुआ होगा,
Hmm.
अपनी मामी फूफी के घर पे जो है वो
Hmm.
रह रहा होगा, उसी के घर में सो रहा होगा, आपको पता ही नहीं चलेगा। उसका पूरा फैमिली ट्री स्टडी करना पड़ता है, उनके घरों के नक्शे तक जो है आरआर ने बना रखे हैं, जो टेररिस्ट सिंपथाइजर्स हैं, ओजीडब्ल्यूज हैं, उनके नक्शे पड़े रहते हैं। वो एक कंपनी कमांडर से दूसरी कंपनी कमांडर को हैंड ओवर करते हैं। वो जो है किसी भी फोर्स को इंक्लूडिंग दी पैराज अवेलेबल नहीं है। वो एक ऐसा डाटा बैंक भी है और एक इंटरेक्शन भी है, आरआर का जो है एक सिस्टम भी है। और बहुत गलत फहमी फैलाने की कोशिश की गई है। लॉट ऑफ टेररिस्ट्स हैव बीन स्प्रेडिंग रूमर्स दैट वी इल ट्रीट द locals. It's to the contrary, it's the terrorists who indulge in rape and remand,
Hmm.
and it's the terrorists who ignite ill will amongst the locals, and the locals come on their own, with their own free will, and talk to the RR company commanders, they talk to the RR Jawans and tell them, and girls at that, and mostly Muslims, they come out and then they tell specifically as to where the terrorists are hiding and where the hideouts have been made. The most of the intelligence generated by the RR people is not technical intelligence by phone tapping or something like that. That facility only the police has. The RRs generates intelligence on the basis of local girls, local Muslims, local people coming out of their own free will, not out of fear or pressure, and telling the RR people as to how the terrorists are indulging in rape and remand and troubling them, and the Pakistani terrorists exploiting their women folk there.
Sir, how do you trust the information? Like, उसकी credibility क्या है? Because if you say कि we are
The
not,
proof, the proof of the sweetness of the pudding is by eating the pudding. It has been time tested. Most of the information that comes turns out to be true. You find out the terrorists hiding on this. There have been incidents when terrorists have been coming and raping sisters and mothers of local people, and that local person has come that I will make a hideout for the terrorists, and then you
okay,
come and hit them. वी टेल देम के ओके फिर ऐसी बात है तो फिर आपको जो है अगर तंग करते हैं आप अपने घर के पास एक हाइड आउट बनाओ और हमारे को बता देना जब
hmm,
जो है टेररिस्ट उसके अंदर आएगा.
hmm,
सो दे हैव हाइड आउट पहले की बनी हुई, हमें पता है कहाँ पे हाइड आउट है, उसका नक्शा भी पता है, और जो है वो लोकल पर्सन ने जो है वो उनको बुलाया, उस हाइड आउट के अंदर जो है वो ठहराया और फौज को जो है बता दिया. अब
hmm.
इससे ज्यादा और क्या कर सकता है, बिकॉज what they are doing is so unethical. Believe you me, there is no ideology that the terrorists have. They have no ideology. When people say it's jihad, it's no jihad. They are misguided youth which have been exploited by our neighbor, and they have been sent across, and they involve some locals also sometimes, and this is what is happening there.
Sir, when you are in an operation, you're about to see a militant. Uh, at that time, there's nothing that goes on in your mind. I think not even fear might come. Like you are in the moment, right? Present moment में जी रहे हैं अभी. But when you finish some activity, when you finish an assignment, then you go and itself introspect कि हाँ,
In the RR, you live the counterterrorism and
yeah,
CI operations. It takes around 5 to 6 months to even understand what's the grain of that insurgency. And the more you try to understand and how the terrorists operate, the more you keep on understanding, the more conscious you get, and the more less daredevil you become.
hmm,
Because initially people are daredevil that with brute force we will just go and hit, and we will eliminate the terrorists and things like that. But gradually, after you've put in around 6 7 months and you see how it is operating and how people are operating, and how the system is working, I'm sure the system has changed quite a lot since I was a company commander. I have done 2 RR tenures, one in staff as a staff officer. Things had changed quite then. And one first tenure was from 2004 to 2007 in the areas of Doda,
hmm,
which, sadly speaking, it took me quite some while to understand as to what was happening. Uh, mm, in the first encounter that I had, I lost 2 men, and though we did happen to kill a terrorist there after the next day, but that was a huge price to
hmm.
pay. And I was still understanding. It was just 4 5 months that I had landed up in RR, and I was still understanding how the things function. But that one encounter taught me a lot of things. Um Sadly, I reached when they had already lost their life, and I reached after 40 minutes from the, because it was the nearest running distance from my post where the
Hmm.
encounter took place. So you learn along the way, and you become cautious, more and more prudent also, and killing and operating and doing an operation is the easiest task. अगर
Hmm.
इफ somebody wants to do कि जो है इस बिल्डिंग के अंदर टेररिस्ट्स है और उसको आपने आरएल से ठोका और पूरी बिल्डिंग को ही गिरा दिया और फिर उसको जो है वो मार दिया, वो तो बड़ा आसान टास्क है.
Yeah.
The how to protect the local populace, how to bring in normalcy, how to tell the population that is in your area of command that we are there for you and we are trying to protect you from these people who are coming from outside. Understand the grain of terrorism as well as insurgency happening in that area and prevent attacks thereafter, and also eliminating slowly and stably the intelligence system of the terrorist, eliminating it, their support system as far as money is concerned, and then eliminating it is a very tough task, which the RR does. Which RR does without any show off, without coming into the limelight. They do their work silently, two killed, one killed, area under supervision, distributing medicines, helping the relief work, making friends with the local population, living as they live amongst them is a very tough task which the RR does. So, I will just tell you an incident, not an incident, what used to happen. If there are 100 rupees that were sent for a particular, let us say, making of a road or a school, the terrorists during that time would send a letter to the PWD department and say, कि this contract should be given to XYZ,
Okay.
so and so person को मिलना चाहिए. तो वो उसी को मिलता था. Contract used to be given to that person only. So the PWD guys used to take 25% out of that 125 they used to take. 25% was given to the person whom they had said कि इसको ही मिलना चाहिए. 25% के अंदर जो है वो काम होता था, जो बनाना होता था या जो भी करना होता था, और 25% डायरेक्टली टेररिस्ट्स के पास पहुंच जाता था. सो इन इफेक्ट टेररिस्ट्स वर वो उन्हीं के बंदे को क्योंकि कॉन्ट्रैक्ट मिला होता था तो उससे भी 10-12% और ले लेते थे. तो वो 25% के अंदर भी पूरा जो है वो बन नहीं पाता था, और उनका जो OGW होता था उसको भी पैसे मिल जाते थे. तो neat clean 37% or 40% of the money that was being sent from the center was going directly into the terrorists' hand through government systems only.
But
This kind of privilege was taking place, and we were ourselves in some ways strengthening the terrorist infrastructure and the extortion that was taking place. So that is why the revocation of Article 370 was so important. When people don't understand why revocation of Article 370 was important, this is why it was very important.
indirectly they're helping the organized terrorist organizations only.
Directly. So they just,
and it was open.
It's open. It was open that the contracts were given, most of the contracts were given to the people who were close to the terrorists, or who had promised that they would give a certain amount of money to the terrorists. The terrorists operating there used to run an extortion cell. They had 10 SIM cards with them. They had areas, hideouts in forests established where they would extract money. For example, a particular road in Doda did not get built for years, whereas on papers it had been built. So there were such kind of systems. This RR understands over a period of time.
Okay.
And this kind of system breaking, but is not in the domain of the Rashtriya Rifles. And that is why after revocation of 370 and with the NIA now coming in, and all the other intelligence of ED and other things coming in, this kind of an infrastructure for the last about 10 years now, 7-8 years, particularly after 2019, since the revocation of Article 370, has been very effective. And I was there from 2019 to 2021 as well in RR. I saw the system change. The higher officials are now posted, the people who really make a difference are posted by the center directly, and they have little local interference and from the local politics, which otherwise, and we'll talk about politics also, how the people were getting elected there. And and how that had an impact into all this, and why some of the local politicians don't want Article 370 to be revoked, because they are hand in glove with the infrastructure of these terrorists and insurgency that still prevails in some corners.
Sir, what was the agenda basically. So when I say ki, like when you say ki there are certain politicians who didn't wanted to revoke the Article 370, the PWD was, they were taking.
Not only PWD.
Yeah,
PWD
yeah,
is just an example.
okay.
I'm just saying
Some
various
agencies.
government departments.
Yeah.
PWD, I just took an example for the road.
Okay.
There may be a hospital, maybe health
So there are n
department. There
number of
may be
cases.
school, which is the education department. There are n number of projects that come up through various departments. There may be water supply departments. There may be so many other departments that work:
Hmm.
fisheries, agriculture, horticulture, all these departments. The various number of tenders that go for construction of various construction of things, or maybe just helping out, or education related, or things like that. So there are various tenders that are coming out. So these tenders were manipulated. These things were, and they would say that this is because of the fear of the gun of the terrorists. That was partially true too,
Hmm.
but it was also the money element that was being exchanged hands at various levels by various people, and that was fueling the insurgency and the terrorism in that area.
पहली बार पता लगा ये सब. I didn't knew about it.
There are other things also, like when I talk about the politicians, let us say what used to happen. I was surprised to see one of the elections on the terrorists, in fact, different groups of terrorists.
Hmm.
Lashkar would have a candidate.
Oh.
The Hizbul Mujahideen would have a candidate. Initially, they used to tell people to boycott the elections, but when they realized that boycotting the elections does not have much of an impact, and the candidates would get elected in any case. So, what the terrorists started doing is that they would tell it openly and post it on the mosque that this is their candidate for this election, and they should vote for that particular candidate. Now, what would happen is that the terrorists, for whatever money they have collected,
Hmm.
they would spend that money for their particular candidate, and
Okay.
also with the fear of the gun, tell the entire village to go and vote for that particular candidate, and that candidate would win, and their candidate would win. Hizbul Mujahideen candidate and Lashkar-e-Toiba candidate were standing against each other and fighting in an election in some of the places. So there is now you made somebody win an election, given him money. Now, obviously, all the contracts, you will just tell that person that all the contracts and other things which are there for the development that are coming should be given to people or OGWs, overground workers, which are helpers of the terrorists themselves. So this system will keep on happening. You get the money from those contracts. You make the people who give you the contracts win. Your own people get win, and then you again keep on getting the contracts. So this system would never break. So the terrorism would never break. The insurgency would be told कि insurgency है, insurgency तो है भी नहीं. लोकल लोग तो चाहते भी नहीं कि जो है वो इस तरह का terrorism हो. लेकिन जो है बाहर से आए हुए terrorists और वहाँ के कुछ local terrorists जो है वो बंदूक के दम के ऊपर और पैसे के दम के ऊपर जो है एक पर्टिकुलर कैंडिडेट को जो है वो जिता दे रहे हैं. वही कैंडिडेट जो है वो हट फिर के उनको और पैसा दिला रहा है.
Sir, I saw a video बहुत टाइम पहले की वीडियो. I think before 370 was abrogated. I think there was some stone pelting was happening. I think it was around जब लिटिल गोगोई सर का इशू चल रहा था. इशू नहीं, सॉरी.
किसका?
मेजर लिटिल गोगोई का. तो I saw
तरुण गोगोई.
लिटिल
हाँ,
गोगोई.
मेजर गोगोई.
Yeah. So I saw a video कि जहाँ पे Fauji's were going and local lights were hitting them on their back और helmet पे लात मार रहे हैं and all that stuff. Was forces, they were getting dismantled क्या? मतलब why was all that shit happened?
I don't know the context in which you are talking about this particular incident
हाँ.
and what happened in Major Gogoi's case also. I don't know the intricate details. There were stone pelting incidents that used to take place in certain places of the valley. They were aggressively not very against the RR. In fact, I will tell you an incident in my post. When my post was being changed from one place to the other, there were 10,000 people who came out there and said that this post must not go. This post must stay here.
Because
So,
they were feeling protected because
obviously, because like I told you, the incident, the much of the atrocities that were being conducted, extortion that was being conducted, it was being done by the terrorists. It was being done by these people, and that kind of subjugation was taking place, and they were being forced to vote in a particular pattern. They were being forced to pay money in a particular pattern. Their female folks were being used, and they were actually feeling really, really oppressed. And there were only two people in those winter cutoff posts that we had in certain areas of Doda and other other places, where there were only either the terrorists or the armed forces which were the kind of rule of law. If there was a land dispute between two parties, one party would go to the terrorists and one party would go to the army and say, okay, protect us. Nobody else is coming from the revenue department to demarcate it. And even if they come to demarcate it, who is going to enforce it? Nobody comes to these rural areas because they say, okay, terrorists would kill us, which was just an excuse. Those people, those forest guards would never go into the forest and the illegal timber would be cut and the money would be given to the terrorists. The drug inspectors would never come into the rural areas and see that poppy was being grown there and that poppy was being sold locally, and then the cut of that was also being given to terrorists. So these kind of things were happening in the rural areas, winter cut-off posts where the army was only there. So there are only two kind of authority, either the army or the terrorists. Now, if somebody is doing illegal poppy construction, the RR guy does not have the authority to tell him, "Nahi yaar, tu nahi karega. You can't do it. This is illegal. Our domain is to kill the terrorists." That was what was specified. But the police would never come there. The police was based into the headquarters and areas, and they would be fearful of coming and operating in that area or enforcing the law 24/7. There were certain areas where the roads had not come up. They were made on paper, but they didn't exist. So this is the kind of system the armed forces, the RR, was confronted with. These are the kind of challenges a young captain, major or lieutenant with his 100 men put in an isolated place, which was 8 to 10 hours nearest walking distance from the nearest roadhead, told to confront. A nexus between the timber mafia, a nexus between the drug peddlers, the nexus between the terrorists, politicians, and some of the people who are influential there, subjugating the local populace almost like a feudal system. And you are set in there to put the things in shape. Now, either you just pass your time and just walk away from that area, or you go into the nuts and bolts and nitty gritties of what is happening and try to put a spoke in the system that is operating of terrorism. And when you do that, there is a backlash, and then you are confronted with lots of challenges. And that's what RR does. RR is a phenomenal organization. What it has done in JNK, no other organization could have done. And now with the revocation of 370 and with the and the kind of and now the people that are getting elected are also much better. And the system of operation under the able command of the LG is much more streamlined. Why they still there are certain apprehensions as to why full statehood may be given or may not be given, and why the LG should be the overall in charge. These are some of the concerns which I put forward to you, which is making everybody think right on top that what is the right time to go ahead with making it a full state.
Correct. Sir, what's with these stone pelters? Like, is it drugs? Is it money? Is it brainwashing? Is it?
There is very less stone pelting that is taking place now. And
No, way back in 2004-7 when you were deployed.
2004 till much later it was happening. The area I was deployed, like I said, there was hardly any stone pelting that was taking place. It was much ahead in the valley. I was more operating. I operated in Kishtwar, Doda, Badharwa, Banihal, Samba, Kathua, Riasi, in these areas, Rajouri later on, and these areas that I operated. I did not confront during my service years any stone pelting. But what I have come to know and seen, these stone pelters were obviously part of the system, like I just said, were paid for, were lured for. I would tell you an interesting incident that many failed lovers would become terrorists, local terrorists. They couldn't, the best way to get a girl there was to pick up a weapon and just elope with her, or pick her up and by forcefully and just run away with her. But now you're a terrorist and you've picked up a gun. So that, if you're not getting a job and you're disillusioned with the system, the people would start stone pelting. If you were into drugs and you needed money and you had any other nothing else to do, you would be given some support by this illicit system that was established to do stone pelting. So that is the basic thing that was happening, more so in the valley but not in the towards the hills.
सर अभी आप you're talking about geopolitics a lot and we were discussing outside कि Afghanistan attacked on Pakistan. What exactly is happening over there?
Pakistan over the years has invested heavily into terrorism as a state policy. Way down in the 80s and 90s, particularly in the 80s, they established Taliban. Taliban was a force of students which was raised with the help of CIA to confront the Russians.
Okay.
These people, when the Russians went out of job, went out of favor, and went out of basically much of the work that they could do, because all they knew was fighting. And once the Russians went out, there was nobody else to fight but your own people. So they transformed more into a terrorist kind of an organization and started taking out their grievances, frustrations onto various things. They try to get political power, they try to get land under them so that they could do what they wanted to do. Now the Taliban, thereafter we know, attacked the Twin Towers and 9/11 happened. And the CIA now realized that they had created a monster which was biting them only. So they bombed them left, right, and center. The Taliban went back to their homes, hid there, and did what their folks did, maybe farming or maybe whatever they did. Hid their weapons somewhere and just laid over. Did guerrilla warfare, struck whatever they could if there were any bases, or with some basic coordination, hit out at the Americans and carry out their activities, eventually forcing the Americans to move out. Now, again, they got the political power as well as the land power, and now they have the complete control. They don't like the Americans. They don't even like the Russians, but they hate the Americans. Obviously, because they were bombing them left, right, and center and killing them, so they don't like them. Now, with Pakistan having newfound love for America, they themselves, whom they trained, they are wanting their pound of flesh from Pakistan. These guys, these Talibanis. Pakistan is feeling the heat. These guys, trained, funded, equipped by them, are creating unrest in their northwest frontier province and other provinces also. They've created a faction of Taliban in Pakistan also, which Pakistan tried to get rid because they were getting too unruly, and because all they know is fighting, they would keep fighting whoever they confront. They try to push them out. So that is what is happening. Pakistan is feeling the heat. They are trying to push out these people. They are trying to get some favors done for the US. They maybe want that the base in Afghanistan may be given back to US. They maybe want US and Pakistani presence in Afghanistan. They want it as a strategic retreat area. They want that it is the ground for maneuver for Pakistani forces. It is geographically so placed that each country wants to have a control over Afghanistan. Those people are not willing to give any control to any foreign power there, and they want to do their thing, their political activity, their power flexing of muscle from there, whatever they understand. So that is what is happening. And obviously, the Taliban has objected to too much of interference or the hits by the Pakistani army. And that is what has exactly happened today in the morning.
It's just a retaliation of what they did.
Not a retaliation, it could blow out into a full-fledged war. It is basically that they want to go and occupy certain territory or want to have some bases there or extract their minerals or exploit them. Their human resources have been exploited of Afghanistan by Pakistanis for so many years. They have been used as terrorists. They have been used as fighters. They have been used as mercenaries by the Pakistani army. They've trained them, they've equipped them, they've changed the moral character of the country, and now they want to exploit them both economically and for their own political gains. They want to give it to parts of it, maybe their air bases to US. They want to give rare earth metals, they want to extract from there and give it to the European countries, which Taliban and Afghanistan as a country is not comfortable with. And that's why they are fighting with each other.
Sir, I had an opportunity to speak to Air Vice Marshal Ravi Kapoor, sir, from Air Force. And then when that podcast got published, and I don't know how, but the link of the same podcast was also mentioned on defensepk.com.
Defense?
pk.com. I think it's Pakistan's defense website. If I'm, जैसे हमारा defense forum India है ना, so same way defensepk.com is there. And then lots of Pakistanis started spamming in the comment section, right? They were like we were talking about Operation Sindhur that time. Rafale और F-16 की बात चल रही थी. Wing Commander Abhinandan was also the subject of that podcast, and these guys were thrashing in the comments ki, do you really believe that our F-16 was shot down? Abhinandan, the dogfight, Abhinandan won the dogfight just like with the help of a MiG-21 Bison only and all that stuff. And I was like, yeah, how can someone be so stupid of ignoring what their country is doing and then believing what doesn't even exist, because they're too much brain framed in such a way ki whatever Pakistan is doing, it is accurate, it is up to the mark, and they are winning every war they have fought against India. So I sometimes get shocked कि इतना बेवकूफ कैसे क्यों हो सकता है कोई.
No, you look
Like
at the
these I'm sorry to
look.
interrupt.
Let's not. There are only two questions to
Hmm.
trolls or people who are just
Hmm.
in Alice in Wonderland, or they are just in a fool's paradise, so to say.
Hmm.
There are only two, three things that you could just ask them. Two things particularly, specifically, you could just ask them. One is if they could name 5 prime ministers of theirs who are still alive, who are still or have not been thrown into jail or have been thrown out of the country, or they have not been accused of something or the other. Just if they can name 5 of them,
Hmm.
they're worth their salt to be spoken about or argued upon. So Pakistan basically has been accusing its own prime ministers of doing wrongdoings. So obviously they will India ko to karenge. So there are a bunch of liars who don't trust their own prime ministers. They vote them into power and then put them into jail or throw them into other countries, and or they execute them.
Hmm.
50% of the time the army has been ruling there. So what
Yeah.
truth do they expect from the armed forces when they themselves want to come in power and be there? So first question to ask them is that, do you have 5 people whom you can name who have served your country with right, earnest and truth? When you don't trust your own prime ministers whom you have voted, what right do you have to comment on somebody else's posts or interview? That would be the end of it. I have generally seen once, whenever they have tried to troll me, I have put forward this question to them and they have no answer.
Okay.
So they can't name.
Hmm.
Because there are hardly any. Actually 5 ही हैं शायद जो
Hmm.
बचे हैं, और जो natural death जो है जिनकी जो है वो हुई है. And none of the others have died a natural death. Even if they have died a natural death, they have been put in prison for a long period of time.
Hmm.
None of them survives. The second thing that you need to ask them in this particular case that you are talking about, Air Vice Marshal Ravi, I just want to ask them that the F-16 given to the Pakistanis was under the condition of fighting insurgency, terrorism against Afghanistan.
Yeah.
There was a rider that it wasn't to be used on their eastern front and it was to be only used in their western front. What the hell was it doing on the eastern front? They have to answer that. First, you tell us what were they doing. They're trying to bomb and come near a Jori. That those weapons were not given to them to do what they were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So why did they use them in the first place at all? They are in violation of all international trade agreements. US has put sanctions against them thereafter. Those F-16 were not to be used, and why the US put sanctions on them thereafter was specifically for the reason that the F-16s have been destroyed. Now also, there have been total 13 aeroplanes that have been destroyed, 8 on ground and rest on the in the air, 5 in the air, and sixth one is the AVAC system, which is the tracker system. So total of 13 have been destroyed, 6 in the air, rest on the ground, which is confirmed. Apart from
Okay.
that, more would have been. And how it is confirmed, there have been n number of repair and recovery teams from the US coming into Pakistan, flying down in Pakistan, and for 3 years, 3 months, they have tried to repair some of the planes that have been hit F-16. They have even asked the Chinese assistance teams to go out of those air bases so that the technology is not leaked, and they have tried to repair it. Now, if you want air logs are available of American planes coming and trying to repair those systems that have done. Those aeroplanes coming and sitting there that have come. If they say that all that is bullshit, then they just need to be told what is your army chief doing with a suitcase in front of Trump. They need to answer that. Just ask them this. What is your first question is ask about their prime minister, and second, just ask them that what is the chief got to do with the head of a state and showing him the, because he wants those airfields to be repaired, because he wants those F-16s to be repaired, because he wants more missiles that have been used, he wants more drones, he wants to sell off his country to a foreign dignitary because he wants defense equipment in cheap, because he wants to sell off not only his country, but he also wants to sell off Afghanistan to another country. So that is what is happening, and it is right there bluntly in their face. They can see it that their chief is trying to sell the country like it is being sold in a showroom. So that's what it is. So they have nothing to say. They're in a fool's paradise. So let them be in fool's paradise.
So these sanctions that you're talking about, is it just to
Sanctions
on Pakistan, regarding the F-16 bombing? Like, can this be quoted in this way? Ki they just don't want, the Americans don't want F-16 to be portrayed as inferior as compared to Rafale. Uh, because they have this habit of preparing weapons and all these, and then circulating them
we are
throughout
not even we are not even talking about one equipment with the other equipment and how it is being used. There is a professional force, and there is none, not even the US. There is none other force as professional as the Indian Air Force. There is no other force as professional as the Indian Army. We have a structure, we have a maintenance system, we have the logistics, we have the entire wherewithal with us, which we have developed over a period of time, and diligently it is worked upon. When the requirement is there within those 2 to 3 hours, who delivers is the person who has been sweating it out and who has been during the training, during the exercises, and the discipline and the decorum of the forces. Their forces are politically inclined. Their forces, their chiefs and their ministers have been sitting in the highest office, from the prime minister to the president of the country. They are least interested in what is happening in the forces, but they are more interested in what is happening as far as the politics of the country is concerned. So their forces are not disciplined. Their forces are not working for the country, but their forces are working for themselves, because they themselves want to become the ministers, the governors, the who's who, and retain the power and authority of the civil governance also with them. So their comparison, whether they have the F-16 or the latest of the tanks, they had the pattern tanks, and we had the Centurion tanks, and we had a much substandard tank, so to say, so they say. But you know what happened on the battlefield? Each bar in our country in the officers' mess is made out of a pattern.
Yeah.
We keep a drink on their hull, and we drink it. So it's like that. No matter what kind of an aircraft they bring, the F-16 or they bring the F-22 or they bring the F-35 or they even get the latest of the stealth aircrafts. You can come with whatever stealth you want to come. You will see a graveyard of aircrafts right split across their airfields, provided they are able to take off. They will not be able to take off at all. We will hit them there itself. So they can bring whatever aircraft they want to bring. It will be grounded. There will be complete air superiority as far as India is concerned within 72 hours. It had only been 48 hours. Had the Op Sindhur lasted for another 24 hours, we would have had comparative air superiority and another 24 hours complete air superiority over Pakistan. At will, we would have chosen the targets wherever in Pakistan and hit them hard. This is what got to them. They came to know that within 24 hours to 48 hours, we will lose all air superiority. 11 airfields have been rendered useless. The runways were made useless. None of their fighter planes could have got in the air, and India would have enjoyed the complete air superiority. That is why they ran to exercise or discuss about the nuclear option. They ran to USA to somehow stop the war. The USA agreed to it and tried to interfere. We clearly told them that it is the Pakistanis who have to request for a ceasefire to be considered, which they did, and then we reconsidered our decision not to pound them further because the mission aims had been achieved, which had been set.
Right. Sir, what about Indian media? Because ऑफ सिंदूर के टाइम पे ना like misinformation बहुत ज़्यादा थी. Like I was seeing people in my family, even my neighbors, रात को 11-12 बजे कि कराची का पोर्ट उड़ा दिया है, ये हो गया है, वो हो गया है, एवाक उड़ा दिया है. एंड सुबह पता लगा कि the entire information is not correct.
Look, there is a fog of information. Some of it is warranted, some of it is unwarranted. When you do information warfare, there are certain things, certain elements which you also have to, which have to be played up, and certain things don't have to be played up. Sometimes the media does what it is fed to them, and sometimes they make things up. However, in the fog of war, obviously, each side tries to exaggerate its achievement and what they are doing. Sometimes the things are such that people get overtly exuberant and just say things for the heck of it. I wouldn't say the Indian media is not nationalist or not patriotic. They were fed certain informations and they played up to it. There are certain informations that were purposely fed to the media.
Okay.
So that I will give you an incident. What happened in 71 war? And why did Pakistan surrender en masse? There was certain information that were fed to the BBC
Okay.
and other agencies that there is no other option but to surrender. There is no other option but to surrender. And they believed the BBC. They believed the BBC rather than any other media. And they surrendered. Now you say that this was a leak, this was false in hindsight, but what happened? A country got independence. So this is a typical kind of information warfare that does happen. In fact, I am sorry to say, in Op Sindhur, Pakistan did better information warfare than us.
Seriously?
They did better information warfare that the country initially, the world initially, they believed that they have shot down 5 Rafale or whatever. They believed, which was far from truth. But their narrative sold. What is making Munir field marshal? It is information warfare.
Yeah.
What is giving awards to people who have not shot a single plane or S-400? It is information warfare. What is calling Munir ye desh ka fakr hai? It is information warfare.
Because Western media believes that too. whatever Pakistan.
It seems to be believing when Trump is calling him and making him sit in the Oval Office and discussing politics and geopolitics with a journal. If he is doing so, it's making it more credible, and that is not really actually great thing. But their information warfare has. I don't know how credible the West has taken it, but they have done more information warfare than we have. And to some extent, their narrative, actually, they were zero.
Hmm.
And most of the things, the damage has been done to them. Look how their information warfare changed the narrative. The narrative was that we have been attacked by the terrorists sent by Pakistan. This was the correct and the factual narrative, and that is why we had to hit them by compulsion, because there was no other way out, because they were still funding and training terrorists, and the top man there, that is Munir, was involved in getting these terrorists sent time and again, and this Pahalgam happened. This was the narrative. This got changed to India's hit us, and we've retaliated. India's hit us, and we've hit their planes. So this narrative got carried to some extent. So their information warfare was effective.
Yeah.